Well, a United Nations report into the October 7 attacks and the early months of the war in Gaza has found both Hamas and Israel committed war crimes. The Commission has accused both sides of intentional attacks on civilians and stated that Israel's actions constituted crimes against humanity because of the huge civilian toll.
The findings have been released as the United States continues to push for an end to the war. Our Middle East correspondent Allyson Horn has more from Jerusalem.
A UN Commission of Inquiry has been investigating the actions of both Hamas and Israel between October 7 and December 31 last year, concluding that Israel's actions have constituted crimes against humanity because of the immense civilian losses inside Gaza, and that both Israel and Hamas have committed war crimes, including torture, murder or willful killing, outrages upon personal dignity and inhumane or cruel treatment. The Commission says Israel did not respond to several requests for access into Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory. Israel has rejected the findings. Hamas didn't immediately respond. The findings have been released as the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken continues another Middle East tour, pushing for a ceasefire to end the war in Gaza. The US says it's seen a response by Hamas to a ceasefire proposal, claiming Hamas has proposed numerous changes to the US-backed plan, some of them unworkable. That's a claim Hamas denies. And although the US says Israel has accepted the proposal, Israel hasn't publicly stated this.
But in the days ahead, we are going to continue to push on an urgent basis with our partners, with Qatar, with Egypt, to try to close this deal, because we know it's in the interests of Israelis, Palestinians, the region, indeed, the entire world. And we all agree that the deal has to be grounded in the principles of the ceasefire proposal that the entire international community supports.
Key obstacles around any ceasefire negotiations have always been about the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops and having a permanent end to the war in Gaza.
Former rugby league star Jarryd Hayne has spent his first night out of prison after his sexual assault convictions were quashed on appeal, but his legal saga isn't over yet. Let's go to Tani Josh in Sydney for more. Tani, explain to us what happened yesterday.
Good morning, Bridget. Well, yesterday we saw some of Mr. Haynes' friends standing outside of a Western Sydney prison waiting for him to be released after serving more than 12 months in jail. Now, Mr. Hayne was serving time in jail because he was found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman at her Newcastle home after the 2018 NRL Grand Final. But yesterday there was a turn of events in the state's Criminal Court of Appeal where his conviction was quashed, and they granted him bail under the conditions that he pay $20,000 and not contact the complainant, as well as not entering the Newcastle local government area. Now, this is the third time Mr. Hayne has been tried over this incident, and the second time his conviction has been overturned. So it's not quite over yet, and there are talks of a fourth trial. And while some say that that's not likely, the decision ultimately comes down to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Bridget.
Thanks a lot, Tani, for the update.
Well, South Australia's Premier is planning to ban all political donations in the state. The planned legislation will prohibit the giving and receiving of electoral donations and gifts registered to political parties, members of Parliament and, of course, candidates. Premier Peter Malinauskas says breaches of the proposed laws could result in fines of up to $50,000 or up to 10 years in prison, and the Premier will join us later in the program.
A new report claims Australian workers are doing an average of 9 hours of unpaid overtime every week. Unions New South Wales surveyed 5,000 workers across multiple industries, with most saying unpaid overtime is just part of their job. The union estimates unpaid overtime is costing employees more than $20,000 each year.
Green Senator Barbara Pocock is calling for consultancy firm PwC to be banned from undertaking government work for at least 5 years following the tax leak scandal. The current ban on PwC is due to expire in December. Yesterday, the Senate committee looking into the scandal found PwC should release the names and positions of those involved in the scandal.
French President Emmanuel Macron has suspended planned electoral reforms that triggered deadly protests in New Caledonia last month. France had planned to extend the right to vote in provincial elections to French residents who've lived in the Pacific Territory for at least a decade. But now Mr Macron says the reforms must be suspended to ensure the return to order in New Caledonia.
Tasmania will hold a parliamentary inquiry into discrimination, bullying and harassment in schools. The state has the highest rate of schoolyard bullying in the nation, according to a report in 2012 by the Australian Council for Educational Research. The inquiry is due to report to Parliament by the end of November.
Northern Territory health authorities have confirmed the jurisdiction's first case of leprosy since 2021. The infection can cause nerve damage if left untreated, and it's almost been eradicated in the developed world. There have been 4 other cases reported in Australia so far this year.
All right, let's take a quick look at the global markets. You can see the ASX futures is up just slightly. The Aussie dollar is pretty steady, so is gold. The Dow Jones is just down a touch.
Well, 16-time Nathan's hot dog eating contest winner Joey Chestnust has found himself in hot water, banned from this year's competition over a new vegan sponsorship deal. In a statement, event organiser Major League Eating says it's devastated to learn Joey has chosen to represent a brand that sells plant-based hot dogs, not Nathan's famous hot dogs.